During a high-stakes flight aboard BTS's private jet, Jimin, taking the lead for the group, requested a sudden and unexpected change of route. But what happened next left everyone on board in utter shock. The pilot, usually trusted and loyal, flatly refused to obey at 30,000 feet. Tension exploded in the cabin, leaving the crew and all 7 BTS members stunned and anxious. Why was the pilot defying them? What did this mean for the group's safety and the trust that held their team together? It had started as just another routine journey home. BTS had just finished a powerful charity concert in Los Angeles, delivering a moving speech about hope, unity, and fighting injustice. The jet was headed back to Seoul. The sky was clear, the cabin relaxed, until a confidential phone call changed everything. Jimin received urgent intelligence. An anonymous whistleblower, hiding out in a small town in Southeast Asia, was ready to reveal a global music industry conspiracy that could shake the foundations of K-pop itself. But he wouldn't survive the night unless BTS came to him. Jimin rose slowly, his gaze steady, and walked to the cockpit. "We have to change course," he said calmly but with conviction. "We're heading to Samnak village. This is bigger than any headline." But instead of a simple "yes, sir," something chilling happened. The captain, Mr. Min, a veteran pilot who'd flown for BTS for years, looked Jimin dead in the eye and replied, "I'm sorry, Jimin, I can't do that." Silence froze the cabin. A direct order had been refused at 30,000 feet. Security guards subtly moved into position. The bandmates exchanged worried glances. Jimin didn't shout. He didn't need to. "I'm not just the lead of this group. This is a direct request for everyone's safety." Captain Min's expression hardened. "I understand, Jimin, but my instructions are different." A tense murmur rippled through the back of the jet. No one had ever seen anything like this. A pilot defying the entire group mid-flight. Jimin narrowed his eyes. Something was very wrong. "Who gave you those instructions?" he asked, his voice unwavering. The pilot hesitated. "I can't say." The air turned cold. RM, seated at the front, gripped his armrest tightly. Jungkook, unusually quiet, inched closer to Jin. Everyone sensed this was no simple disagreement. It was a real, dangerous threat. "Bring me the flight log," Jimin ordered, "and connect me to the group's management. Now." Far below the clouds, unseen eyes were tracking every move of BTS's jet. Minutes later, a young security officer handed Jimin a sealed envelope. Inside was something few celebrities ever see mid-flight: a global threat alert and a list of compromised staff. Captain Min's name was on the list. Jimin's face went stone cold. He looked toward the cockpit, then at his bandmates. "We have a traitor at the controls." The murmur of concern turned into panic. Jungkook whispered, "Hyung, what do we do?" Jimin knelt, meeting his eyes. "As long as I'm here, we're not crashing. I promise." He stood determined. He called on the secure line. "This is Jimin from BTS. Activate protocol change. We may have to override cockpit controls." Suddenly, the plane jolted violently. It wasn't a storm. It wasn't turbulence. It was a deliberate move. The pilot had switched to manual, lock control. His voice echoed through the intercom. "Sorry, boys, you're not going to Samnak or anywhere else." Chaos erupted in the cabin, but Jimin stood firm. "If he works for the enemy, we fight with truth, with courage, and with everything we have." The battle for control had just begun. Meanwhile, in a shadowy room somewhere in Seoul, powerful executives watched BTS's flight data in real time. One of them, Sehun, the influential CEO of a global media conglomerate, smiled coldly. "It's working," she whispered. "They'll never make it to Samnak." They had paid Captain Min handsomely. For them, stopping BTS was the only way to keep their secrets hidden. Shady deals, contract fraud, money laundering, manipulation of the charts. Only one brave whistleblower in a rural church was ready to speak, and he trusted only BTS, especially Jimin. On board, the group's manager leaned in and whispered to Jimin, "If we don't get there before sunset, our chance is gone." Jimin's eyes fixed on the cockpit door. His voice was low, but on fire. "Then we'll break down that door if we have to." Outside, the sun began to set. Time was running out. The will of one group, fighting for millions, was about to face the weight of a global conspiracy. As the crisis deepened, RM slipped quietly to the back of the plane, took a small wooden cross from his mother's old bag, a secret source of strength in hard times, and knelt to pray. God, protect our group, protect the truth, expose those who try to destroy us. Jungkook, still a teenager, joined him silently, placing a gentle hand on his young shoulder. Elsewhere, the flight attendants gathered. The jet was no longer a symbol of stardom. It had become a battlefield. An older attendant, Mr. Kim, finally spoke. I've flown with legends. Never seen anything like this. But Jimin doesn't run from darkness. He walks right into it. Back in a sealed room, Jimin took a secure satellite phone. A voice came through, nervous, desperate. Jimin, it's me. I don't have much time. The documents are real. Names, accounts, dates, it's all connected. But they're after me, and the pilot's been paid off. You're not safe either. I have a backup plan, but you must land before sunset, or the truth dies with me. The line went dead. Jimin stared at the phone. The room fell silent. Even the engines seemed to hush. Straightening his shoulders, he declared, Get me to that cockpit. I don't care how, we're landing in Samnak. The future of K-pop depends on it. At that moment, Jimin was no longer just an idol. He was a fighter for truth at 30,000 feet. The security team tried the cockpit door. It's sealed from the inside, whispered Taehyung. There's always a manual override, even in emergencies, insisted Suga. Not this time, the captain planned everything, Jin muttered. The crew froze. One attendant whispered to a young guard, Why would he do this? They paid him, the guard answered, by people who would rather see BTS destroyed than let them reveal the truth. Below, Samnak village was slipping away from their route. Time was closing fast. Jimin took RM's hand. We've come too far to let them win now. RM nodded silently, praying again. A technician approached cautiously. Jimin, there might be a way, a maintenance tunnel under the cockpit. Jimin met his gaze, resolute. Then show me the way. At 30,000 feet, Jimin was ready to crawl through steel and cables to save a truth big enough to change everything. They slid carefully through the narrow passages, pipes and wires all around. No idol had ever been here before. Jimin's hands bled, his clothes tore, but he pressed on. He wasn't crawling for fame. He was crawling for the truth, for the whistleblower, for BTS and ARMY. Finally, they reached a service hatch beneath the cockpit. The technician nodded. It's thin. We can force it. Jimin looked up. Let's finish this. And with a sharp crack, the hatch burst open. Captain Min spun around, stunned, as Jimin rose from the shadows, fierce and calm as a lion. You're not in charge here, Jimin said quietly. We are. Yes, we are, Jimin replied. As Captain Min tried to reach the radio, Jungkook, quick and determined, intercepted him, pinning the captain's wrist with a firm practiced move. You're under arrest for betrayal, Jungkook growled. Captain Min was left stunned. He'd expected resistance, but not this. Jimin dropped into the co-pilot's seat, catching his breath. Now we go to Samnak. Cheers erupted in the main cabin. BTS had taken back control of their jet. Jimin looked out through the cockpit window, the clouds glowing with the last gold of sunset. He whispered, We're not done yet. Below, the sun touched the horizon. Time was running out, but Jimin was in command again, and his fight for the truth was about to land where it mattered most. He grabbed the controls alongside the real co-pilot. He wasn't a pilot, but his calm and leadership were unshakable. We'll be over Samnak's airspace in 22 minutes, whispered the co-pilot. Take us there. No more mistakes, Jimin replied. In the corner of the cockpit, Captain Min sat in silence, handcuffed, eyes burning with defeat. His carefully orchestrated plan, set in motion by powerful people, had failed. Meanwhile, in the rear cabin, RM wiped tears from his eyes as he saw their route finally change on the navigation screen. Jungkook turned to Jin. Hyung, Jimin really crawled through the plane for us. Jin smiled gently. He'd crawl through fire for ARMY, for all of us. Outside, the BTS jet cut through the sky with fierce determination. Below, the sleepy village of Samnak had no idea what storm was coming. The truth, buried for years, was about to see the light in a small chapel among the trees. The whistleblower waited, hands trembling, with a USB drive hidden inside a Bible. Time was running out. The shadows grew longer, but BTS was closing in. Suddenly, a voice crackled over the jet's radio. BTS, private flight, Semnak landing not authorized. Repeat, change course immediately. The co-pilot looked at Jimin, confused. That can't be right, we had clearance. Stay on course, Jimin ordered, calm but firm. The voice insisted, emergency directive, landing not authorized. V, watching closely, muttered, this smells like sabotage. They're stalling us. Jimin's eyes locked on the radar. They're running out of ways to stop us. Get me the local governor now. A private call was established. This is Jimin of BTS. We're landing in your district. In 12 minutes, we're bringing proof of a crime that reaches across borders. There was a long silence, then a voice that almost trembled. Jimin, I believe you. The runway will be ready. Jimin hung up and glanced out the window. Truth waited just below the clouds. He returned to the main cabin. The members stood, some in tears, some with hands over their hearts. Not because he was their leader, but for risking his life for what was right. Jimin gave no speech. He simply said, we're almost there. Thank you for trusting me. RM hugged him tightly, his voice shaking. I was so scared. Jimin whispered back, I know, but we never back down when our fans, our family, need us. Jungkook stepped forward, holding the small cross RM had prayed with. This is for the whistleblower. I want him to have it. Jimin nodded, eyes glistening. It means more than you know. Outside, the tiny airstrip at Semnak appeared between the hills. But as they approached, a black van raced toward the village chapel, the same place where the whistleblower waited, risking everything. Inside the plane, everyone held their breath. Would they be too late? The wheels of the BTS jet hit the runway with a thunderous roar. The rural airstrip had never seen anything like it. BTS landing unannounced, security flooding the area, emergency vehicles circling the plane. The doors flew open. Jimin stepped down, bathed in the golden sunset, flanked by security and his bandmates. Less than 15 kilometers away, in a wooden chapel among the trees, the whistleblower, a frail former music producer named Mr. Lim, trembled as he clutched the Bible with the hidden USB. Suddenly, he heard tires screech. Through the stained glass, he saw the black van arrive. They weren't security, nor reporters. They were men in suits with weapons. He dropped to his knees. God, please don't let it end like this. In the distance, the sound of helicopters grew. The BTS jet hadn't just brought a band, it had brought hope. Sir, he's in danger, cried V, showing Jimin live satellite images. If we don't get there in minutes, it'll be too late. Take me, now, Jimin ordered, not hesitating for a second. A caravan of unmarked vehicles tore down the rural roads. The trees flew past as the sky turned red. Jimin rode in the front seat next to the driver. He refused to hide. They think they can scare us into silence. Not today. In the chapel, Mr. Lim cowered as the door creaked. The men entered slowly, sweeping their flashlights over the pews. Just give us the drive, old man. Nobody needs to know. But Mr. Lim, his voice trembling, replied, and the world will know. He's coming. And just then, boom! The front doors exploded open. Security forces stormed in like thunder. Mr. Lim collapsed, sobbing with relief amid the dust, shouts, and light. Jimin charged through the chapel doors, straight to Mr. Lim. You held on, Jimin said, kneeling beside him. Mr. Lim looked up, tears streaming down his face. I knew you'd come. Tears fell as he slowly pulled the USB from the Bible. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from finally being heard. I waited 12 years, he whispered. They buried everything. But here it is. Jimin took the drive as if it were glass. The member stood behind him, silent, eyes fixed on Mr. Lim. I couldn't trust anyone else, the whistleblower said. They tried to buy me, threaten me, but I knew you'd do the right thing. Jimin rested a hand on his shoulder. You didn't just protect evidence, you protected all of us. Outside, the sirens faded. The black van had been intercepted. The men arrested. The sun dipped behind the hills, and in that tiny chapel, something sacred had happened. A forgotten producer had given BTS and the world a second chance to save the music. Back in the quartet, Jimin gripped the USB tightly. A technician opened a laptop. The files loaded slowly. Old contracts, secret messages, bank transfers, and names. Famous names, powerful names. The files connected media executives, powerful officials, and global elites to a shadowy network of corruption, money laundering, chart manipulation, and illegal surveillance. Jin gasped, hand over his mouth. Jungkook's eyes went wide. So young, yet he understood the danger Jimin had faced for them all. This could turn the industry upside down, whispered V, still staring at the evidence. Jimin shook his head, voice steady. No, it won't turn it upside down. It'll set things right. He took a deep breath. Let's make it public. That night, their SUV sped toward the nearest airport, where a secure satellite link awaited. But someone else had already been alerted. The same people who paid Captain Min weren't finished yet. Not far away, another jet took off silently, its target clear. BTS's returning flight. As the engines roared for takeoff, no one knew what was coming next. Back on board, Jimin sat in the communications station, preparing to address the world. The USB was encrypted, ready to upload to trusted servers. Suddenly, an alert flashed on the radar. There's an unidentified craft approaching. No transponder, said the co-pilot, tense. It's not commercial. It's a private jet. And not responding, reported RM, eyes narrowed. Jimin stood and headed for the cockpit. Any signs of weapons? No, Jimin, but they're flying dangerously close. The unknown jet veered, nearly clipping BTS's wing. The entire plane shook with turbulence. They're trying to scare us out of the sky, said Suga, watching the monitors. Jimin didn't flinch. Tell them we're not afraid. But deep down, everyone knew this was the last desperate attempt to stop the truth. The enemy jets circled, threatening and close. Meanwhile, Jimin sat before the onboard camera, ready to address millions of fans. 5 minutes to broadcast, whispered the technician. Jimin looked into the lens, not with anger, but with unshakable conviction. I've seen the darkest things that hide in the shadows, he quietly told his team. But Army deserves to see the light. Fighter jets moved to escort the BTS plane. The unidentified jet was warned away by radio. Inside, the red light blinked. Live. Jimin breathed deep and spoke to the heart of millions. To our army around the world, tonight in my hands, I hold proof of a deep betrayal, not just against us, but against all of you. The truth was buried, and many tried to stop us before we reached this moment. But we made it, together. He lifted the USB. This changes everything. All over the world, families leaned closer to their screens. Old fans wept. Young fans held their breath. Even elders, parents, grandparents, watched in awe. The USB revealed corruption so deep and so personal. For many, it was overwhelming. The faces behind the betrayal were not strangers. They were famous producers, executives, even old friends. But there was Jimin, calm and clear, with the truth in his hand. Justice is coming, he said softly. The internet exploded. Millions joined in, not with hatred, but with courage. Not with violence, but unity. But for every inspired fan, there were others, trembling in fear. In a dark office, Ms. Han, the powerful CEO, hurled her phone at the wall. They weren't supposed to survive that flight, but BTS had survived, and now the world was standing with them. Meanwhile, inside the jet, something even more powerful was happening. Jungkook, nearly a grown man now, moved quietly to Jimin's side, silent tears streaming down his face. I saw what they tried to do to you, Hyung, and you still didn't stop. Jimin pulled him close, voice breaking. I didn't stop because I fight for you, for your future, for every kid who dreams out there. Jin watched them, hand over his heart. A flight attendant sobbed softly nearby, because in that instant, the world's biggest star wasn't an idol, but simply a brother, a friend, who'd braved the darkness so those he loved could inherit a world filled with light and honesty. That moment was more powerful than any concert, more unforgettable than any headline. Because behind every battle Jimin had fought, there was always love. But just as hope soared, new danger appeared. The enemy jet, still circling, suddenly banked, heading straight for the BTS plane. The escort fighters triggered alarms. "Possible interception in progress," said the co-pilot, tense. Jimin stood behind the pilots. "Don't fire unless they fire first." A flash at the enemy's tail. Was it a missile? No, just a flare, a decoy. Then suddenly the real missile. Everyone held their breath. But before panic could take hold, one of the escort fighters, call sign Falcon 6, broke formation and placed itself between BTS's jet and the missile, taking the hit. The explosion rocked the skies. Jin screamed. The staff hit the floor. Jungkook clung to his seat. But the pilot's sacrifice had saved them all. In the stunned silence that followed, Jimin stood tall, eyes full of pain and gratitude. "Find out who that pilot was. I want to know their name. None of us will ever forget what they just did." Minutes later, the control tower called. The voice was shaky but firm. "BTS flight, Falcon 6 is down. Pilot confirmed, killed in action." Silence fell, heavy as a shroud. Jimin placed a hand over his heart. Jin bowed his head. Jungkook wiped away tears. "The name?" Jimin asked softly. "Captain Min Ho-seo, 29 years old, son of a humble family in Busan, first pilot in his family." Jimin closed his eyes. "Get me his parents now." A few minutes later, on a secure line, an older woman's voice trembled. "Jimin," he answered gently, "Mrs. Seo, your son gave his life to save me and everyone on this plane." "He believed in you," Mrs. Seo replied through her tears. "He told me that if you and BTS stood strong, the world would have a chance. My son always believed in duty, faith, and sacrifice. He said that if he ever had to choose between comfort and courage, he'd choose courage, because that's what you showed him. You fought for all of us when others gave up. Yesterday, he followed your example. I'm proud of him. Thank you for reminding him and all of us what it really means to stand for something." Jimin's voice broke for the first time that day. "Thanks to him, we're all still here." He sat in silence, opening the handwritten letter he had just received from Mrs. Seo. He read it aloud to the group, voice trembling with emotion. When he finished, Jimin stood, wiped away a tear, and quietly stepped outside, placing the letter at the foot of the Korean flag, bowing in silence. Later that same day, BTS posthumously awarded Captain Min Ho-seo the highest honor they could give. All across Korea and the world, there was a moment of silence. Millions cried, not just for a pilot, but for a son and mother and the true meaning of sacrifice. The USB drive had fulfilled its purpose. Investigations swept the industry, corrupt executives were charged, and even TV networks that once attacked BTS now aired the truth unfiltered. But something deeper happened. That Sunday, churches were full, families hugged tighter, neighbors who hadn't spoken in years shared meals in their yards. This was more than a music scandal. It was personal. It was about hope. A few days later, Jimin stood not at a concert stage, but in front of Korea's monument to the heroes. He didn't speak of revenge. He spoke of rebirth. "We will not be defined by the darkness that tried to divide us," he said. "We'll be remembered for how we stood together, for how we rose again." Millions watched. A farmer in Busan, a single mother in Daegu, a war widow in Gwangju, all wiping tears from their eyes. They weren't just seeing an idol, they were seeing a young man who risked everything to protect their future. At sunset, the BTS jet took off once more, this time headed to a very special place. A private tribute for Mr. Lim, the whistleblower, who had passed away peacefully just hours after delivering the truth. RM, Jin, Jungkook, and several of the BTS family joined Jimin. There were no cameras, no reporters, only gratitude. Mr. Lim's Bible lay next to his resting place. Jungkook gently placed the small cross from RM inside the Bible, whispering, "Thank you." Jimin stood before the grave, his voice breaking. "This man didn't just save our music, he saved our souls." A children's choir from the village sang softly, "Bless you, Korea." And many wept, not from sadness, but because something pure had returned. At the end of that long, emotional day, Jimin looked out the window of the BTS jet as they flew home. He whispered to himself, "They tried to take everything from us. We answered with grace." If this story touched your heart, if it made you cry, if it reminded you what truth, courage, and real leadership mean, like, comment, and subscribe. Tell us which moment moved you most. Let's fill the comments with love for all heroes, seen and unseen. Because in the end, the best stories are the ones that make us feel. God bless you and may Korea always shine.